Hello, everybody. Welcome to your hump day edition of the Expendables Show. I actually got the day right. Usually I don't know what the hell day it is. I know I podcast on either Sunday or Wednesday, and I always got to think because it doesn't matter what day it is. I'm usually doing the same thing every day. I live in like Groundhog Day. Wake up, go to the gym, come home, do media stuff. Then I do work stuff, and then I do more media stuff. And then I talk to my people on the phone. And then it's like every day is the same. And then sometimes T will be like, hey, let's go do Taco Tuesday. Or, hey, let's go to the other spot we go to. And so like I depend on other people to like drag me out of the house. But with that said, I got to turn my volume off because people will be texting me that don't realize I'm podcasting. But with that said, I am going to bring, I have asked T to come on and co-host the show with me from time to time. She has a busy schedule. So, with her own social media stuff, she covers a lot of Clayton County here in Georgia. And, but she's more on the comedy side of things. So she's funny. And so I'm going to bring her on to help me try to make people laugh in times when things aren't quite as funny. So we'll try to be as inappropriate as possible in true Expendable Show fashion. But let's get into the show. We've got a lot to talk about. I have done nothing but sit at my desk all day. So let's get the sponsors out of the way. Let's keep them happy. The sponsors, Gatsby Trading Solutions and the Islamabad Telegraph, which I write for. I just wrote an article yesterday for them. I think I've written like probably 20 articles now for this publication. So I enjoy it. They give me freedom to write about whatever I want to. They don't really give me assignments. And I mean, they do sometimes, like the editor-in-chief will email me and say, hey, this is going on. Can you cover this in however way you want to cover it? And so like they do give me assignments, but they'll say your own twist, do it how you want. So I like that. I like that I have the freedom to do that. So let's get into our statistics. So gas prices were sitting at $2.83 on the national average. We're seeing, a nice stability there. Mortgage rates were at 5.990. I know Trump was just talking about that at the World Economic Forum just today. We're going to get into the World Economic Forum in depth today. Trump's approval rating, he's at 42.4%. And so the Dow Jones was an up and down train wreck today. So I got to look and see what it actually closed at. So the Dow, hey, Bonnie. So the Dow did take a huge hit today because Trump was threatening a 10% tariff on all of the countries involved in Greenland. And once Trump got to the Economic Forum and started mapping out his plan, hi, Linda, the markets like shot up. So like it was like they were panicking, and then when Trump said, hey, we're going to do it a different way, then the Dow Jones jumped up, which we saw at its lowest point. It was at like 48,500 and it closed at 49,077. So we saw a massive, it peaked at almost 49.4. So we saw almost 1,000-point, jump today in the Dow. So that just shows you when you have these presidents that come out and, especially like Biden and Clinton, Bush, like some of these worthless presidents, Obama, that we've had in the past, and they come out like we can't control these things. The markets do what? No, you do, because Donald Trump can say the word tariff and the Dow Jones will take a hit, and then he'll say, just kidding. And then the Dow Jones will jump. Just by him making a tweet or making a truth, he can affect the global markets. So that's a thing. And Elon Musk proved that point too with crypto. He had made some crypto statements a few years back, and it made the crypto almost tank. So it shows how volatile the stock market actually is, and how one person can heavily affect how our markets go. Now, with that said, President Trump has done a phenomenal job with Scott Bessent of making that benefit us investors. It heavily affects us in a positive way. So they're working the stock market. I think they said we're like in the good, like 25%. Just recently. So like we're making tons of money in the stock market, which is awesome. If you have a 401k, you're looking real good. I would hang on to that. Hopefully, if a Democrat gets in office, the stock market's going to tank. So I would, if you're able to retire before a Democrat gets elected. Democrat Party approval ratings at 33.9%. So they finally updated it. Well, one of them did, but it jumped the average up a little bit because the Democrats are in the moral high ground with the ICE things, allegedly. So let's talk about a couple things before we get into the World Economic Forum. So I'm sure everyone has seen the video, and I'm not going to play it because it's of the ICE protesters going into the church in Minneapolis. So that is a huge issue for me, and I hope they charge everyone there, including Don Lemon. But it's funny because I was just watching a video before I came on live, and it was showing the main guy making the video that everybody figured out who he was, and now the media is following him around, and he don't like it. He's getting mad. He's like, "What are you guys following me around? It's crazy. I have the right to do that." And so they were telling him like, "Well, we have the right to be here." And my advice to that guy, whatever his name is, I'm not even going to learn his name because he's irrelevant. He's trying to roll. If you're going to put yourself out there in the media, and I have the same problem. If you're going to put yourself out there in the media, expect them to notice you, and expect them to ridicule you, and expect them to follow you around and do things to you. And look, you want to get out there in the game's going to come to you. I promise. So I don't feel bad for him. He's like, why is everybody following me around? Well, you made yourself known and you put yourself out there. So guess what? Accept what's coming to you, because that's what's going to happen when you join the media world. So I don't feel bad for him, not one iota. I've seen every angle of what being in the media, like the Taliban tells me they don't like me all the time. Like, I get it. And that they're the worst. Like, Weddle's people don't like me, but they're nothing compared to the Taliban not liking me. I don't watch my back when I go outside because of Weddle's people. I do it because of the Taliban. So it's a little different ball game. So let's jump into the World Economic Forum. For one, there's been a lot of stand-up comedy. I don't know if y'all have watched. I have literally watched the World Economic Forum all day since Trump got off the helicopter. So Scott Bessent completely roasted Gavin Newsom. So Gavin Newsom was supposed to speak, and he's there with Alex Soros. And so Scott Bessent has been completely roasting Gavin Newsom. He said he's there with his best buddy, Alex Soros. And they have now taken Gavin Newsom off of the speaking list. He's no longer speaking at Davos. So I think it's completely funny. And we're going to get into the nitty gritty of this. Donald Trump, he made he went in his initial speech. He had made a comment about, I think he was talking about the economy, and he said, well, Joe Biden couldn't do anything because he didn't even know he was alive. And it's just funny how nonchalantly Donald Trump can come out and make these statements and just keep face. Like I couldn't do it. If I said something like that and I looked at one person even crack a smirk, I would be on the ground. But let's get into what happened today. So the Greenland talks have been the talk of the entire World Economic Forum on day one. This has been the main objective. I actually was at the gym today. I was talking to one of my friends earlier, and I was telling her, I said, look, I was at the gym, and I had just got done. Like I got halfway. Today's chest day, so I got halfway through chest, and my phone starts going crazy, and I look down, and it's India, and I'm like, man, bro, these guys, every time there's breaking news, it's always when I'm at the gym. And so I got on the phone. I'm like, yeah, they're like, Donald Trump's getting ready to speak. We need you to cover Greenland. Let us know what's happening with Greenland. Everybody in India is freaking out because they think he's going to throw the military in Greenland and take it over. So I had to get on the news this morning in India, which, mind you, the audience that in the last like couple years on this specific channel has had 5 billion viewers. So this is not like a schmuck station. This is like the big time in Asia. It's the largest viewed station in Asia. And so I'm like, okay, I guess I will tell your 5 billion viewers how it really is. You know, it's a lot of pressure sometimes. Like these people are going to eat me alive if I'm wrong. So I have to like stay on top of things. So with Greenland being the talk of everything, luckily it's been building up to this. So I am very versed on what Trump is trying to do with Greenland and the tactics he's using and the rebuttal from, some of the European leaders. But Trump repeatedly emphasized that the U.S. should acquire Greenland, calling it strategically essential. He said the U.S. would be unstoppable if they controlled the island. He insisted he would not use force to seize it, but did not rule out other pressure tactics. He criticized Denmark and NATO allies for resisting the idea, calling them ungrateful. I agree. And everybody knows I have beef with Europe. So I'm all for anything of making Europe bend the knee. I think it's ironic, and I love it. Well, we're gonna, with the deal that just got made, and we're still waiting on the exact specifics, but Trump and European leaders have confirmed that a deal has tentatively been made. So I think what's going to happen is the United States of America is going to go in there, and we're going to create infrastructure there, and we are going to modernize a few things and build a humongous military presence there, which I think is in due. We need that. When you look at geographically at where Greenland is placed and where Russia is at, it is a strategic advantage for us to have a strong military presence there. Now, Space Force does have a facility there, but it's not, as far as I know, and I may be wrong because I don't have a security clearance to know any better, but it doesn't appear that the Space Force facility there is militarized. Now, like I said, I may be wrong because I don't have a security clearance to know any better. But from what the public knows is there's a Space Force facility there. Now, Trump has argued that European nations are not headed in the right direction, pointing to immigration and defense spending. I think NATO's never heading, Europe's never heading in the right direction. Europe is one of those, especially NATO and the United Nations, they are a toothless chihuahua. They make a lot of noise, but they really don't have enough teeth to bite anything. And it's truly sad because they do think that they're intimidating. And I don't know if anybody's ever really noticed, but Russia doesn't really pay too much attention to anything Europe does. And anytime that Europe makes them mad, Putin just goes over there and shuts off the natural gas. You like that? Here, be cold. And he don't care. And if you think about it, some of like China is not worried about Europe. Saudi Arabia is not worried about Europe. Like nobody respects Europe, but for some reason they've got this, well, we've been the monarchy of the world for 700 years. Nobody cares. You guys have no power now. None. And one man, Donald Trump, has completely taken the rest of what you had. Even the most weakest country on the planet, France, who surrenders to everyone, they haven't had a tough leader since Napoleon. Even Macron, who's been wearing sunglasses to the World Economic Forum. I don't know if his man wife beat his ass again on the airplane, but he says he has an eye infection, but he's wearing these like Top Gun, Air Force sunglasses to hide his eyes. But even he said, hey, the new world orders or the old world order is over with. We got to get used to doing things the new way. And he's been a critic. So we're going to talk about that more too. Donald Trump did pose the question in his speech. He said, I don't know if NATO would even go to bat for us if we needed help. He threatened a 10% tariff on 8 NATO members unless they support his Greenland plan. He definitely got that deal worked out. It appears everybody's confirming it. Then NATO, the head of NATO, even made a statement. His name's Lars something. He said, just to clarify, if the United States did need us, NATO would, without question, come to the aid of the United States. So now that we have that established, we know that they are chomping at the bit and begging for the United States' cooperation. They're begging. They need us. We know that. We've watched them. We've watched Europe bend the knee in just a few hours since Trump walked off the steps of the helicopter. They've been trying to figure out how to please him, and that's power. That's power. And we haven't seen Europe do this to an American leader in a long, long time. They didn't respect Biden. Hell, at the Queen's funeral, they put Biden in the 14th row. That's how much. You think Donald Trump's going to sit in the 14th row? No, he's going to sit in the front. Him and Melania, who's going to look fabulous at a funeral. And they're going to be right there in the front row, and they're going to make sure that the crown comes over and gives them recognition, because that's what superpower leaders do. They don't get put in the 15th row like Joe Biden. Yeah, just put old Grandpappy in the 14th row so that way nobody can see him fall asleep or whatnot, which ironically, if you read my book, The Swiss Effect, I go into detail of that whole event where they put him right next to the president of Switzerland. And right after that, Donald Trump made a statement that said, well, it's pretty fitting that Joe Biden gets put in the 14th row sitting next to the president of a third world country. That's what Donald Trump thinks of the country of Switzerland. He knows more. And I picked up on that in my book. My book's been doing well in the last couple of weeks because everybody's like, "Why? What your book was right." I know. I spent a whole year researching it. Anyway, Trump said Europe is failing on immigration and security. Trump said European leaders reportedly viewed his Greenland push as a rupture in the world order, which if it was a big, huge rupture, why did they all just succumb to the United States of America in a matter of hours? They didn't put up much of a fight. Trump did have a tough time getting there. There was some kind of issue on Air Force One. His arrival was delayed after Air Force One turned back due to a minor electrical issue. However, it may not have been as minor as what they're saying. I've seen some experts get up there and say, yeah, if it was minor, they would have continued. So they switched planes and they continued to Switzerland. The pundits, which are worthless, They described the Trump speech as combative and defiant, and focused on U.S. and that Trump focused too much on U.S. dominance. He told the audience that without the U.S., you'd all be speaking German and in a little Japanese after World War II, which he's right. It's a fact. Had the United States not jumped into World War II, this world would be speaking German without a doubt, or at least that hemisphere. So it's a proven fact. It's also noted that eventually, even though Russia put up a good fight, they lost millions and millions of people in World War II. So even Russia, with their valiant effort and their sacrifice, and I can comfortably say that because it's fact. Russia needed bullets, so they had all their family members showing up, giving family heirlooms so they can melt them down into bullets. It was a huge ordeal, and the United States came and saved the day. My dad said Marco's fixing Air Force One. Good. Marco Rubio has turned in. I've been kind of skeptical of Marco Rubio in the past, but seeing him as Secretary of State, there's no one in this country that can do it better than him. He's flawless. There's Gavin Newsom's on TV right now crying. He said, the White House blocked me from speaking. No, nobody wants your nope, I'm not going to say. I was about to say a bunch of bad words, and I had to stop myself. Whew, that was close. That was a close one. So Davos meeting. So the theme this year is called A Spirit of Dialogue. Usually they've got these like cryptic, stupid things that Klaus Schwab comes up with to, try to get people to go off of his agenda. Well, now it's a spirit of dialogue because they know Trump's coming and they know that they've got to figure out how to get this, how to get a deal done with him. Alex Soros cut a $10 million check for California's redistricting campaign. Imagine that. So France President Macron criticized U.S. tariff threats, saying we prefer respect to bullies. Well, you guys get bullied by everyone. I don't want to hear nothing out of the French president. President Trump expected to dominate discussions, and he did, amid disputes over Greenland and trade policy. This was record attendance, they're saying. Nearly 400 top political leaders. There's been an economic focus on this meeting. It's a massive investment announces, included $14.5 trillion signed by Maharashtra on day one. So there's other things going on there. I didn't say that right, but who cares? Global upheaval. So climate. They usually talk about climate because this is a big giant liberal love fest usually. That was created by Klaus Schwab in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that are completely worthless, socialist, and bad for our economy, bad for American sovereignty. It's a push. It's a movement of the Overton window to get us to conform to European globalization. It's a fact. I even had ChatGPT. We had a conversation about it today, and ChatGPT agreed with me. So it's usually around climate, tech regulations, and geopolitical fragmentation, highlighted by Al Jazeera. Imagine that. But also, this is the brainchild. The World Economic Forum was created by Klaus Schwab. It is the brainchild of his fourth industrial revolution, which is completely anti-constitution. So if you go look at all that, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's to trick us to conform to European globalization. So why does Davos matter? It's not a decision-making body, but it's mainly like, how do we get all of the most out of touch with reality world leaders in one place to try to convince everybody to get on the same page? So they claim it's a neutral platform where rivals meet. They say it's a signal amplifier for global economic trends. It's a launch pad for major initiatives. It's a barometer for geopolitical tensions, which yes, somewhat. There are things that they keep showing Gavin Newsom sitting in the back, not getting talked to. It's funny. I love watching him fail. Which, mind you, I was doing some research because we're going to talk about Randall Weddle and his pastor preaching. But I wanted everybody to know that Randall Weddle did donate $10,000 to the Democrat Party of California, which some of that money funneled to. This was in 2023, so that funneled to Gavin Newsom a little bit. So just so y'all know that. So Macron and Trump have been going back and forth over at Davos. So there's a lot that say that Macron actually has criticized China's economic behavior. He argued Europe must stop being naive and build economic sovereignty because Trump is threatening to heavily tax the wine coming out of France, which that's one of France's biggest exports is the wine industry. So he didn't like that. He's like, well, maybe we'll just get in business with China. And Trump's like, go ahead, see how you like that. So there's that aspect. But he is right. Macron is right, where Europe does need to learn how to develop their own sovereignty. And this is what I explained on the news this morning in India. You're either a sovereign nation who can independently function, or you're a dependency nation. So when I was describing this, we look at Iceland, humongous landmass, one of the largest land masses on the planet. There's 50,000-ish people that live on this giant landmass. So is Greenland sovereign? No, it's a dependency nation. And it proves that because they need Denmark to function. Now, let's look at Denmark. Is Denmark a sovereign nation or is it a dependency nation? Can they generate their own massive military? Can they develop their own energy independence? Can they sustain their own agriculture? No, they depend on many other markets to survive. So when we're looking at this, you have a dependency nation depending upon another dependency nation. That's not going to work. And so Macron is kind of right that Europe does need to develop their own sovereignty. Now, they're not going to be able to do that fully in their own independent nations. They're going to have to be a European Union to come together to keep each other sovereign. So it's going to be a continent instead of like the United States, where we don't need Canada, we don't need Mexico, we don't need China, we don't need India. We can sustain our own population on our own. We have our own minerals. We can make our own electric vehicles. We can do all these things. So that's important to know that also gives us a very, very big hand up when it comes to international and geopolitical negotiations. We can do these things. Not all these other countries can. And we can walk away from the negotiation table because we don't really need what you have, because we can generate it on our own. Now, are we doing it as a favor to help you stimulate your economy? Yeah, we can do that. But do we need to? If you're not going to be fair to us, do we need you? No, we don't. So that's the realization that I think Europe has come to at Davos in the last 24 hours is Donald Trump's right. American independence, they don't need us. But we come to the realization that we do need them. Now, how do we please Donald Trump so he'll play ball? And that's what you're seeing happening. A lot of the leftists are not going to like it because Donald Trump is basically bullying Europe into submission. But at the same time, we have been getting used and abused for 100 years by Europe. I don't feel bad. So Macron's been making these statements about we'll just do business with China. Trump said, go ahead, do whatever you want, but you're still, if you want your wine to come into this American market, who is the largest consumer of worthless shit on the planet, if you want to miss out on that, go right ahead, sell it to China. They're not going to buy your expensive ass wine. They're in a socialist country where the majority of the people can't afford a month's salary to buy your wine. So good luck. Have fun selling wine to like 5 people in China that can afford it. Maybe that's a little bit racist. I don't know. But that's what happens when you have a socialist country that oppresses their people and they work for pennies. Do I feel bad for some of those Chinese people? Absolutely. I feel bad for them. I feel like China could thrive if they had a leadership that would give them wings to fly. So let's move on to Canada, because Canada has been flapping their yap as well. Mark Carney, who's gotten real buddy-buddy with China, and he's going to reap the repercussions of that eventually. So Canada is reducing dependence on the United States, but it's not shifting. They're claiming they're not shifting their allegiance to China, but yet it appears that that's what's happening. So Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney is visiting China specifically to reduce Canada's dependence on the United States as relations with Washington have cooled. Canada and China just signed a major trade thaw. A new landmark agreement lowers tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles and restores Chinese access to Canadian canola. So, yep, they're going to have plenty of stuff to grease in China now. Canada will allow up to 49,000 China EVs at a 6.1 tariff, down from 100%. So that is a massive trade deal. China will reduce tariffs on Canadian agricultural exports like canola. Canada and China released a full roadmap to rebuild ties. So the Canadian Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong describes a significant and positive step forward with a package of agreements aimed at revitalizing economic ties. So what this means, Canada's increasing engagement with China. They've been, Trudeau was adamant about being best friends with China, and now Carney's following suit. My phone keeps vibrating. I feel like somebody's trying to fact check me. So it appears that my dad has made a declaration that Alberta is now the 51st state of the United States. Where's Rob at? He's my Canadian spokesman. He'll probably agree with that. I think we should make Alberta the 51st state. I would love to have the Albertans part of the United States. So while we're talking, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Canada because I've gone in great depth. I've seen this coming for a long time. China has been putting their own quasi-military installations in little spots across Canada for some time now. China's maneuvering. If you read my first book, From the Mouth, I map out what China's trying to do. And it was right. But anyway, China's maneuvering. This isn't a big secret anymore. Everybody knows what they're trying to do. So let's talk about the history of the World Economic Forum, since that's what's going on right now. So Klaus Schwab has stepped down as the executive chairman. He's transitioning to a non-executive role. Now his stupid son is running around hanging out with Gavin Newsom, his California best friend. In my opinion, well, not Klaus Schwab, George Soros' son, Alex Soros. Now, in my opinion, both of those clowns need to go to prison, but that's neither here nor there. So it marks the end, with Klaus Schwab stepping down as executive chairman. It marks the end of his decades-long leadership of the organization he founded in 1971. The World Economic Forum is moving from a founder-led model to a more distributed governance structure. Schwab will remain involved, but without operational control. The interim co-chairs that were appointed in 2025 is Larry Fink, who's CEO of BlackRock, and Andre Hoffman, who's the vice chair of Rock Holdings. Larry Fink is the CEO of the largest asset management company in the world. BlackRock has been a contributing factor of the economic, socioeconomic, and educational decline of the United States for the last 20 years. What they do is Klaus Schwab created this system, and he uses the asset management companies, mainly the three largest ones, which I call a triopoly: BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. Klaus Schwab says, here, implement all your corporations to start abiding by these 17 sustainable development goals. And so they trickle them down to Procter and Gamble and GE and all these major corporations, McDonald's, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Budweiser, which is why you had the Dylan Mulvaney thing. This all comes from the Klaus Schwab 17 Sustainable Development Goals to trickle it down through the asset management companies. This is something that I saw happening a year and a half to 2 years ago, and I wrote a book about it called The Swiss Effect. And so as these have trickled down, Donald Trump saw this coming too. And Donald Trump says this is un-American. This is anti-Constitution. They're trying to trick us. And so he's been fighting back against Europe ever since. And so Larry Fink, who in Trump's first term, Larry Fink was a financial advisor to Donald Trump for a very short amount of time. I think what happened was Donald Trump realized that Larry Fink was trying to manipulate him to initiate the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which would jumpstart the 2013 or the 2030 agenda that they want to get all this stuff done by, and jumpstart European globalization. Trump figured that out real fast and dismissed Larry Fink from Trump's cabinet pretty much as fast as he got named to it. So Larry Fink and Trump don't really have a good relationship. So, and it showed when they met, when Trump got to the event, Larry Fink was there to greet him. There was no smile. It was very dry. They shook hands, and Larry Fink hurried up and got off the stage and let Trump talk. So there's some bad blood there, and you can see it. And rightfully so, because Larry Fink is a money hungry, egotistical maniac. And so is Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab wanted to die knowing that his fourth industrial revolution was in full steam. But Donald Trump screwed that up because in his first term, he said, nope, I'm not doing that. And he was right. Hillary Clinton was Barack Obama started it. They got Obama to start it. Hillary Clinton was supposed to perfect it. But Hillary Clinton didn't win the election. Trump did, and Trump scrapped it. And that put their 2030 agenda on pause. Well, then Biden got it, and they said, well, let's expedite everything. So that's why we got hammered with all this woke stuff. And because they hurried up and they expedited it to try to stay on pace for 2030, because Klaus Schwab's going to die. He's like 1,000 years old. There's Rob, my favorite Canadian. We were just talking about how we want Alberta to come to the United States side. Maybe you don't need to be a state, but can you just be like, can you just secede from Canada and we can just make you like a partner country of the United States? That's what I want to do. You guys can be your own country, Alberta. Just secede from Canada. So only the normal people in Canada live in Alberta. I don't foresee it happening either, but it would be cool. I would go to Alberta. I would start vacationing in Alberta. That would be fun. There's lots of cool frontier to see there. So from what I hear, so Rob's in Ontario. I don't know, man. I don't know how you do it. At least you're not in Montreal or Toronto. That's where the real weirdos are at, I heard. So the 2030 agenda is all screwed up. They know they're not going to make that anymore. They are still planning on initiating this. They're just waiting on Trump to get out of the way. So it's not over with. This whole push that we're seeing from the left comes from Europe. Do your research and look at it. This all comes from Europe. All this stuff. That's why when you seen Kamala Harris and you see Biden on TV going, we got to get this done by 2030. That's because Klaus Schwab's, that's the date he set to get all this done. Let's hurry up and make everybody climate geniuses. And all it did was enriched Larry Fink. You made Larry, that made the billionaire class richer. And all these liberals got tricked. They thought they were fighting against the man. They weren't. They got tricked. They've been giving the man power this whole time to take more money, to enrich the European globalization. Stupid. It's stupid. But when you look through a tiny little periscope and you don't see the big picture, that's what happens. But anyway, enough of that nonsense. So I'm going to show you guys a video that was brought to my attention by a lot of people. Now, first, I'm going to give you a picture before I show the video. And everyone's favorite mayor in London, Kentucky, Randall Weddle, he went to church the other day, which is fine. Sitting next to him is the alleged shooter of Doug Harless, the alleged killer of Doug Harless, Josh Morgan. Who supposedly is on leave. And maybe that's something, maybe it's not. I'm not going to put a lot of time and effort into it. It's open to interpretation, as it is a little odd that Weddle, as the mayor, is seen sitting next to the guy who's on leave for potentially killing a citizen of Laurel County. So there's that. To me, it looks like a conflict of interest. It looks like bias. But it's open to interpretation. However, Randall Weddle, he got righteous. And I'm not going to sit here. If he wants to go to church and he wants to praise the word, by all means, go ahead and do it. But I have some issues with how he did it. So the video I'm going to show you is Redemption Road Church. The pastor there is Jeremiah Yoakum. He claims that he doesn't pay no attention to the politics in town and he doesn't want no part of it. But yet Randall Weddle made it his whole sermon about politics. So we're going to watch it.
Give us an opportunity like that. And he told us the first year we're there, he said, I want this city to hear about Jesus. And we do, don't we, brother? Come on up here. We turn it up loud as it would go. A lot of you's been there, and I don't know all the goings on down there of London. I don't really care to know. Are you mayor this week? Yeah, you're mayor this week. Okay. I don't never know. But Mayor Weddle has been a tremendous blessing to this ministry and to our church. Like I said, I don't know what goes on out in the political world. I just come to church and sing and preach and shout. But I do know that Mayor Weddle has opened up his city for, I'm telling you, the whole city hears about Jesus that one night of the year. And I commend him for doing that.
We just praise the Lord and we thank him for everything he's done in my life, Brother Jeremiah.
Now he starts off good.
And I've watched him for many years, just different programs and stuff. And me and Victoria find you to be a true blessing, you and your family. But you know, folks, a lot of people's asked me why I got into politics, because I was a businessman and really wasn't into the politics. But if you look what's going on in our country right now, we're lacking a Jesus. The very problems we face across this nation, locally in Washington, it's because they need to put Jesus back in our schools and back in the government. So I did step out, and I wanted to do something that wasn't being done. I wanted to be a man with a title that wasn't afraid to say that Jesus is the only way. It ain't Muhammad. It ain't Buddha. It ain't a president. It ain't a senator. It ain't a mayor. It ain't any government. Jesus Christ is the only way that you're going to be saved and born again. We need people back in politics that's going to say, you need the Holy Ghost. You need that fire built up inside you. I still believe we still need to be praying for men and women of God to stand up and proclaim that Jesus Christ is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I will not be ashamed, because he reached down and he saved a wretched soul like me. I'll forever sing his praise and his glory. Brother Yoakum, they can lock me up. They can impeach me. They can do whatever they want to. But I'm going to still say, Jesus is King. Jesus is Lord. Hey, glory. You know, they can lie on you. They can say a lot of things. But there's a man in heaven named Jesus, and he's got a book, and it's opened up. And if you're bought by his blood, he's writing your name down. Brother, I don't need to please anybody but the man in heaven. Amen. The world can come against you. Listen to me, young people. You can just look online. They can come against you. They can say a lot of bad things about you. But one thing for sure is, if you'll get a hold of Jesus Christ, you'll find that's the only thing you need. All I need is my Jesus. I told my wife, she said, why are they fighting so hard? I said, honey, let me tell you something. The Bible says that we war not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. We're not warring against men and women here. We're fighting because in 3 years, 178 people have been.
All right, so I'm gonna stop it right there, because he completely turned. He started off good. Like, if he wants to get up there and talk about the glory and everything, and then he turned it into a divisive sermon, and that's when I think that Pastor Yoakum should have shut him down. I don't think that church is a place for politics. I don't think you talk about politics at all at church. It's a place where you should be able to sit down and not have to worry about those things. You should be praying for the people in your community, and instead he made several very divisive statements that made it look like that his way is God's way and everybody else is nothing. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, because I find my there's nothing more important than my faith, and I try not to preach too much on my channel, but sometimes it's necessary. And I remember I keep going back, and a lot of people are like, Eric, why do you do this? Why do you take the scrutiny? Why do you do this and that? And it's because one day I woke up, and it was about 10 years ago. And I had this not so much a vision, but it was like a dream. And in the dream, God came to me and he handed me a sword. And he handed me the sword, and he said, you have one job, and you will strike them all down. And so that's why I do what I do, because I don't get paid. I don't get paid by anybody, despite what Melissa Jones and them think, which their opinion is worthless to me. But I go after these people because I see the evil in them. And I think Randall Weddle is one of the most evil people in the state of Kentucky. I know there's others out there, but Randall Weddle refuses to come off of it. And now he's infiltrated a church to spread his political agenda. And it was getting like, he was really getting into that sermon. So I want to remind everyone of Matthew 7:15. I did a lot of research today, and I want to bring these things to the light because when he goes up there and he's not quoting any scripture, which I didn't expect him to. We pretty much know that Randall Weddle probably can't read. But we need to remember that in Matthew 7:15, it says that beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. And I think that sums that up perfectly. You have a ravenous wolf. What this reminds me of is when I watched Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? When everything that those guys did was a giant con. And that's what I see when I watch him on that pulpit. I see a con. You're right, Linda. You're right. There's some evil out there in Grayson County as well. I've seen it. And then I need to look at 2 Corinthians 11, 13 to 15, which Paul warns that false apostles disguise themselves as servants of righteousness, just as Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. That's what I saw when I watched him on that stage. And in 1 John 4:1, the book says, test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. Test Randall Weddle. Test his faith and see if he's real or if he's a false prophet. Test and see if he will tell his own sheep in his own little group of people. Test and see if he's going to stand up to them and say, stop saying evil things about this community and about these community members, regardless of how they view you, regardless of what they say. Will he shut down his own evil? You're not going to see that, because everything Randall Weddle does is his own little calculations. He has his own agenda, and he uses everything he can. I want to see the finances of that church. That's what I want to see. I'm not going to call it that there's wrongdoing going on there, but I wouldn't have let him talk politically in the church. I wouldn't have let him talk divisively towards the other people of the community. So it makes me wonder. In Acts 20, from 29 to 30, Paul warns the church in Ephesus, savage wolves will come in among you, even from your own number. Men will arise and distort the truth. God said it. The book said it. Certain individuals have secretly slipped in among you. They pervert the grace of our God. False teachers will secretly bring in destructive heresies and exploit people with fabricated stories. This is like the story of Randall Weddle. Everything he does is a deception. Everything that he does is a manipulation and a falsehood. And he wants to get on top of that pulpit and try to speak the word of God. Now, I can't judge him for that. I can't. Because if the spirit's in him, the spirit's in him. But as soon as he turned that spirit and turned it and pointed that finger and used it as a weapon right towards the people of London, that's where I saw the evil. That's where I saw it come out. And it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. He started off good. Praise Jesus. But then he turned it and he pointed that church right at the people of London that oppose him. And that's where he's wrong. We have to remember that God expects us to forgive. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. It's our duty. It's in the book. We are supposed to abide by that. I'll forgive Randall Weddle. I'll forgive Melissa Jones. I'll forgive Weddle's whole family. It doesn't make it okay for him to continue to do what he's doing. No, it doesn't. Is there a way for him to come forward and cleanse himself? Yes, there is. And any time that a repentance is needed, it should be brought forward. I don't think you can get in front of a pulpit in front of people as a leader in a community and religiously point a finger at the people that you are supposed to be representing. Galatians says, if someone is caught in wrongdoing, restore them gently, but stay watchful. I continuously have attacked Randall Weddle, but I need him to stop doing what he's doing. And then we can restore him. What he's doing is wrong. What he's doing in this community is wrong, and he knows it. And what he's done is he's built his power around the people that can stop him legally and have bought his way into getting away with whatever he wants. So the word tells us in Romans 13:4 that leaders are God's servants for the good of the people, not for their own glory, not for their own platform, and not for their own praise. Leadership is not for your glory. Leadership is for his glory. And part of his glory is to lead your sheep to him, not to lead your sheep to your pocketbook or lead your pocketbook to your sheep. This isn't how it works. Bonnie, you're probably right. A leader who forgets this begins to drift. Pride whispers, you answer to no one, but Scripture answers back with clarity. Pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. And that's the truth. And his fall is coming. There's no way that the Lord is going to let this happen much longer. A leader who claims to answer only to God must remember that God himself commands leaders to answer to the people that they serve. Moses listened to the people. David listened to the people. And Jesus washed the feet of the people. He's looking at this backwards. The first thing that he said when he got up on that pulpit was, me. Bring it to me. Me. Serving isn't about me. It's about the people that you should be serving. And everything that he does is a me. Look at me. Thank you for my trophy. Look at what I did. I saved 170 some people with what I did. There's nobody that he will share praise with. Leadership without accountability becomes tyranny, not service. It's not service. If you're not held accountable for your mistakes, and he needs to be held accountable, that's not service. Jesus warned us in Matthew 7:15 that false teachers come in sheep's clothing. We've already discussed this. But their fruit reveals them. And Paul warned in Acts 20:29-30 that wolves can rise up from among us, speak twisted things to draw people after themselves. That's what Randall Weddle does every single day. And he does it through the voice of Melissa Jones, and he does it through the voice of his family members, and he does it through the voice of constables and police chiefs and everybody else that he can empower to do his dirty work for him. Division is not the fruit of the Spirit. Self-exaltation is not the fruit of the Spirit. Boasting is not the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Don't blame me. It's in the book. Any leader, spiritual or civic, must examine their fruit. Always. You should always be examining your fruit. A leader's words can heal or harm. Randall Weddle should know this. He conducts it every day. Any leader should know this. If someone is caught in wrongdoing, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. I cannot repeat that enough. We should not continue to kick them while they're down. It is our responsibility to God to restore them. Restore them. It is every bit of what Jesus did. He would find the broken and restore them. Even though Randall Weddle's lost, even though he is needing to face accountability, he still needs restored. And when he hits rock bottom, this community needs to come together and restore him. Because that's what God would want us to do. Every leader that listens to this show needs to understand that you are not above the people. You are not above correction. You are not exempt from humility. You are not the owner of the flock. You are only the caretaker of the flock. The flock does not belong to you. And may every community member remember. Hold your leaders accountable with truth and love. Pray for them every day, regardless of your personal feelings for them. I know it's hard, but that's what God demands of us. You must encourage them to do the right thing, correct them when they're needed, and forgive them when they repent. It's time for Randall Weddle to repent. For in doing so, we build not just a stronger church or a stronger city or a stronger congregation or a stronger people, but a stronger witness to the world. And that's what's demanded of us with God. I hope that carries somewhere. I hope it helps y'all. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. But that's some of the things that popped out to me today as I was preparing. And I wanted to tear that. I wanted to just go in there and word for word tear that sermon apart, but that's not what God would demand of me. So I ask that you all go in your peaceful way, look out for one another, build each other up, because that's what God demands of us. I'm out. Peace.